Welcome to Veranda IAS. In today's current affairs session, in the subject Geography and Disaster Management, we will be dealing with the topic Government likely to postpone census to 2022. So, the learning objective of today's LU is to explain the census, to examine the census which is in news, and to discuss the key points in census, and also to analyze the background of census in India. So, moving on, let's talk briefly about census. So, the census provides data on country's population size, distribution, socio-economic and demographic and other characteristics. So, it provides all that the thing needed for the government to actually create an welfare scheme for peoples on living on that country. So, in 1872 AD, the census was first conducted by British Viceroy Lord Mayo. So, the first census in India was actually conducted by Lord Mayo in the year 1872. It is aided in the formulation of new policies and government initiatives aimed at improving the community's shortcomings. Further, we will see why this census is actually in news as of now. So, the house listing, so what are the things so we want to note in these census? So, the house listing and the housing census from April 2020 to September 2020 and the population enumeration from 9th February to 28th February 2021 were of two stages of the census. So, it was planned for two stages. What are the two stages? It's house listing and housing census, and then the population enumeration which planned to be conducted on the 9th February to 28th February 2021. But because of the prevailing situation, this census got postponed to the next year, that is the 2022. Due to the pandemic, the first part of the census and the update of the National Population Register NPR were originally scheduled to begin on 1st April 2020 in several states, but were postponed. So, these schedules were actually postponed. So, we see that there are two steps in census calculation, the first one and the second one. So, what is actually this? In house listing, there will be 31 questions asked in every household. So, these questions will be relating about how many houses you have and what are the construction which we planning on that house. So, what is the type of house we have built, whether it is an kacha house, pakka house, so whether it is an ceiling based house, so how many floors we have in this house, so how many vehicles we have in our house. So, everything will be asked in this 31 questions. So, that is called as house listing and housing census, and apart from that the population enumeration which shows about how many people actually live in a particular household. So, who is the head of the household? So, what is the gender of the head of the household? Everything will be covered in this house listing, which is in the 31 questions. So, because of this pandemic, this census which is planned in 2021, which is an decennial census which will be conducted every 10 years, it actually got postponed to 2022. Further, the key points of census: the Office of Registrar General and Census Commissioner, India, under the Ministry of Home Affairs were actually the head of this in charge of conducting this census. So, is the in charge of conducting the decennial census, that is conducted every 10 years, every decade. Further, one of the most reliable sources of information on the following topics in the census. In census, what we usually expect is it was demography and economic activity, and literacy and education are the two important aspects of life, and household amenities and housing, and further the fertility, mortality and urbanization. So, everything, every detail we can obtain by conducting this census. So, let us see about background of census in India. So, in India from ancient period we have this habit of counting population and has the data, that is the census. So, the ancient literature, that is the Rig Veda, actually reveals that from 800 to 600 BC, some form of population count was actually conducted in India. So, where we get this detail from? It is got from the Rig Veda, which is an yearly Vedic text, yearly Vedic text. Further, in the medieval period, when Akbar was the Mughal Empire, the administrative report Ain-e Akbari had thorough information on population, industry, wealth, and a variety of other characteristics. Even before the medieval period, even in ancient period, also we have this Arthashastra. By Kautilya, which is written during the Mauryan period. It has some details about the population of the Mauryan country on that particular period. Even though the exact number is not given in Arthashastra, we have some information about population which is living on the Mauryan country during that period. Further, we have also seen that in medieval period, Ain-e Akbari had thorough information on population, every count, every individual, every industry, it has a thorough count, the Ain-e Akbari, which is written during the period of Akbar. Then finally, in modern Indian period, Henry Walter performed the first comprehensive census of India at Dhaka. So now Dhaka, now it is in Bangladesh now. So in 1830, so it was the first comprehensive census which was performed. This census collected data on the population by sex, broad age range, and housing type and amenities. So this they actually tried to segregate the population based on sex, based on age category, and types of houses. And basic amenities. According to government website of Census India, the second census was performed in the year 1836 to 1837 AD by St. George. Further, this endeavor, which culminated in 1872, has been generally referred to as India's first population census. So even though the census has been performed before, the first proper census was performed in the year 1872. So under British administration, the first synchronized census was conducted on 17th February 1881 by W.C. Plowden and Census Commissioner of India at the time. So W.C. Plowden, who was the Census Commissioner of India at the time, has performed this census. Since then, census has been conducted every 10 years without interruption. So every 10 years without interruption, the census has been conducted from 1881. So the census 2011 was the country's 15th national census since 1872 AD and its 7th since independence. So it is the last census, 2011 census, it's the 15th census. So we have postponed the 16th census, which should have conducted in the year 2021. So last census, that is the 2011 census, is this actually a caste based census for the second time. Caste based census was performed in 2011. Before this, we have this caste based census in the year 1931. So after so many long years, so this census of 2011, it had performed a caste-wise census, but the report has not yet been released because of various reasons. So that's all for today's LU. To summarize today's LU, we have seen about the census and why the census is in news, and the key points in census, and the background of census in India. And that's all for today's LU, and have a nice day. Thank you.